A unanimous jury has found Ghislaine Maxwell guilty of one of the worst crimes imaginable, facilitating and participating in the sexual abuse of children, crimes that she committed with her longtime partner and co-conspirator, Jeffrey Epstein. The road to justice has been far too long.
That was former U.S. Attorney Damian Williams announcing the guilty verdict from Ghislaine Maxwell's federal sex trafficking trial. The latest legal move by Jeffrey Epstein's accomplice is what's trending in true crime this morning. On Friday, Maxwell asked the U.S. Supreme Court to overturn her conviction, arguing that she was covered by a non-prosecution agreement made between the government, former U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta, and her former paramour, Mr. Epstein. Now, Maxwell is currently serving a 20-year prison sentence. In 2021, she was convicted of 5 counts of aiding Epstein in his sexual abuse of underage girls. In their petition, her defense attorneys write in part, quote, "A defendant should be able to rely on a promise that the United States will not prosecute again without being subject to a gotcha in some other jurisdiction that chooses to interpret that plain language promise in some other way." We're asking this morning, what are the chances Maxwell's conviction gets overturned? I'm so happy to welcome on the show a brand new guest who is a former U.S. attorney, served 2 terms. He's also been a state-level prosecutor and done criminal defense work and civil work in the private sector. William Ehlenfeld is with us this morning, and of course our Franz Borghardt with us too. William, welcome. I'm a great admirer of all the wonderful work you've done for the people of West Virginia for many years, and so happy to have you here and to get to pick your brain about this one. So just a quick refresher, in Florida is where Alex Acosta made that non-prosecution agreement with Jeffrey Epstein. Then it was in New York that we know a prosecution did commence before Jeffrey Epstein killed himself in jail, and Ghislaine Maxwell's was seen through in New York. Her team is saying that she can't be prosecuted in New York because the government can bind the government in any state when we're talking about a federal case. So essentially saying that what was done in Florida would preclude U.S. attorneys in New York from moving forward. What do you think about that?
So it's a good point, an interesting point raised by her appellate counsel. And by the way, thanks for having me on the show. It's great to be here. I'm a big fan of yours, Julie.
Our pleasure, William.
So there's a circuit split is basically what her attorneys are hanging their hat on. And by that, I mean, there are 13 circuits across the country, and each one has an appellate court. So the appellate court in New York, it's the United States Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit. And in the Second Circuit, there's binding precedent that says a United States attorney in one district cannot bind a United States attorney in another district unless the plea agreement contemplates a broader restriction. So in other words, when the U.S. attorney, Mr. Acosta, in the Southern District of Florida, entered into this agreement, which was interesting in and of itself because he worked with the state prosecutor in that case, and ultimately, in that case, Epstein pled to state charges. The United States agreed not to pursue federal charges against him or 4 other co-conspirators. Maxwell wasn't specifically named in that plea agreement, but she fits into that box because it wasn't an exclusive group. And ultimately, Acosta said that he wouldn't prosecute any of those folks in his district. He didn't talk about the Southern District of New York or any other district within that agreement. And so they prosecuted her in New York, and the Second Circuit Court of Appeals, where New York sits, has binding precedent that says one U.S. attorney cannot bind another. Now, her attorneys are saying that in other circuits, the law is different. The Fourth Circuit, for example, where West Virginia sits, has a different way of dealing with that. And so they're asking the United States Supreme Court to clarify. And sometimes the U.S. Supreme Court takes cases because they need to clarify the law so that we have consistency across the country. I think that's their best argument. But what has happened in New York is what we should expect, because the precedent there is that Damian Williams, who you saw here earlier on your show, an old friend of mine, did a great job prosecuting the case, and he was not bound by that agreement that Acosta put into place back in 2007.
Yeah, he sure did. Wow, William, taking us to school. You should be a professor, too. Add that to your already incredible resume next. So this is interesting. So it's the way you've explained it to us. The Supreme Court is being asked to kind of reconcile differences in the various federal jurisdictions. And but if we go by New York precedent, we can rest easy that this conviction should stand.
Yes, it's very clear. The district court judge, which is the trial court level in the federal system, found that she's not entitled to any relief as a result of that agreement reached in Florida. The appellate court found the same. And then the other thing, and the U.S. Supreme Court's going to have to weigh in, and you've talked about this on your show plenty of times. The U.S. Supreme Court doesn't take many cases, right? There's very few cases that they actually accept for appeal. And so there's a good likelihood that it'll just refuse to hear this case, and the Second Circuit's decision will be binding, and that'll be the end of the story, and she'll do her 20 years in federal prison, and she deserves every second of that sentence for the conduct she engaged in. But if they do take the case, the U.S. Supreme Court, if they take the case, they will have to decide what the law of the land is and whether or not they agree with how the Second Circuit has handled it, or if they think that a U.S. attorney is able to bind another U.S. attorney in another district in another part of the country.
This is so helpful. Gosh, William, thank you for all of that. I have a clip I want to play for you both. This was a prison interview that Ms. Maxwell did in 2023. So this is after she's been convicted. She's talking with Talk TV, who's huge in the United Kingdom. And let's take a listen to the kind of the posture she takes at this point in time about the people that she victimized.
Epstein died, and they should take their disappointment and upset out on the authorities that allowed that to happen. And that, as I said, I hope that they have some closure by the judicial process that took place, and I wish them time to heal and to be able to have a productive and good life going forward.
Franz, we notice there's no apology there from Ghislaine Maxwell. Your thoughts on her giving the prison interviews, too?
Well, number one, there's no apology because she's not really sorry and not really remorseful. Secondly, why is she giving an interview? Like, I'm hoping that somewhere a federal or state attorney was like, please don't do this. And look, the problem is, and this is the problem for anybody that has defendants who represents people who have, crimes that happen on different jurisdictional boundaries and places, is that just because your case gets finished in one jurisdiction doesn't mean you can't be prosecuted in another. And so keep your mouth shut. It's very simple. It's very simple. Don't poke the bear. Don't give anybody any reason. Her best strategy would have been just to be forgotten about. Do her time, do her thing, and just be forgotten about and fade into the sunset. But by giving an interview, a remorseless interview, it's like, I double dog dare you to prosecute me some more.
Franz, boom, you're so right. People detest this woman for good reason, and she just makes it so much worse. She's unapologetic. She should be ashamed of herself, and I sure hope that conviction stands. I think I speak for all of our courties when I say that. Franz, William, excellent analysis from you both.